So this is a fun part of the session. We're going to start talking about creative and all things creative, so definitely want to stay around for. So I would love to introduce the wonderful Cassie. She is our creative director here at Bolt Digital and DTC Live. So some of you in the room may know her, may have done funnel workshops with her, may even be in the edit squad with her. And I've known Cassie for years now. We worked together when she headed up content at KMI and I headed up D2C. So it's so lovely to share a stage with her. So Cassie, content is evolving. If anyone says, you know, the technical setup and the tech stack is the most important, it's true, but content is actually the thing that's driving these algorithms, especially now in 2023 and going into 2024. So, with 52% of ad effectiveness on Meta being driven by creative, with TikTok channel being almost solely driven by creative in the algorithm, and with new channels emerging every day that are focusing solely on creative, we really want to dive into creative for a bit now. So my first question really is could you explain your journey, Cassie? Because I think some of the brands in the room would be really interested in the ones that you've worked for and how they've been able to help with creative cut-through.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess my journey began when I was part of the founding team of the beauty brand Coco and Eve, which eventually went on to become viral. And I was tasked literally on day one by the founders of the brand to create the most Instagrammable brand on the platform. And I think we gave the Glossiers of the world a really good run for their money. And I'd say the thing that was pivotal to the success of that brand and why we were able to scale in 2 years to an 8-figure revenue is mostly due to the balance of really strong aesthetics, creating content across every channel that was literally available to us, as well as kind of pulling all the strategic levers of paid social, email marketing, and just really focusing on building an aesthetic brand, because this was kind of the time when it was like Instagram feeds needed to be 10 out of 10, so...
And who here knows of Coco and Eve, a small little brand on the internet? Yeah, I thought so.
Who was hounded by ads in 2018? Sorry about that.
So you've also worked for some amazing brands, but you've also recently, over the past year, been working with us. So if you could talk to us maybe about some of the projects that you've been working on since Coco and Eve, and then what you do now within the funnel workshops and edit squads that you do here at Bolt Digital.
Yeah, so kind of a mix of things. So I've since, fast forward on from the Coco and Eve days, founded my own content production company. So I've worked with clients like John Lewis, helping them to really scale their social media content. So when we did some analysis of their social platforms, we found that 25% of their content was video on Instagram, which obviously we all know, video first, that's just not enough. And all their TikTok content was very store-led and looked like a store content. So kind of project I worked on was looking at how can we elevate the content production strategies and really think about getting more out of the budgets that we had available. So rather than waiting kind of for 2 reels from the in-house content production team like every quarter, that slow burn process, we suggested, why don't we put the power of content production into the hands of the social team and the content team. And so we started to pivot budgets and we'd do things like rent a house for the day with loads of rooms and have a content production going on in basically every room of the house. So we'd have lipstick swatches in the bedroom, we'd have a Dyson Airwrap thing going on in the dressing room, and ultimately be able to create minimum 20 pieces of content from one day's shoot. And that meant that we could really push out more video on Reels and also across TikTok as well. And then also present day, kind of working with Bolt on the funnel workshops and edit squad. So those are 2 things that I'm heavily involved with and see some familiar faces today.
Amazing. And I think one of those things, especially when we talk about the edit squad and funnel workshops, is all about getting creative cut through. So most brands, when we talk to, their biggest problem is brand awareness, but how do you get that brand awareness? It's through the velocity of content, especially now. So one of the things that we really wanted to touch on to finish this talk is really to go through Cassie's recommendations on the top 3 trends that she's seeing within the content space. So I'd love you to talk through number 1, which should be here.
Absolutely. So I've tried to kind of pull 3 trends that I think are quite easy to actually execute for most businesses. So the first one is to kind of think of your team as your ambassadors, or staff are the new influencers is my other phrase for it. So as I just mentioned, giving your team the freedom to create some of that more raw content across TikTok and Instagram, I think is a really strong one. And also showcasing the behind the scenes of your brand. So how you run in the office, what people are wearing to the office, how things are done. Really showing that culture behind your brand just helps people get a little bit more invested, and also helps you to just drive volume, because this is content that can be created kind of off the cuff or by your members of staff at home or wherever they might be. Another one is looking at raw and unfiltered content. So obviously in the world of TikTok, we've got Gen Z taking over. They've got lots to say and they're not holding back. So people are jumping onto these platforms with what you can see like very honest reviews of certain things. So I would say to just really get ahead of this and work on your kind of nano influencer campaigns and your gifting campaigns. And don't be afraid to have honest feedback coming in. I think we're kind of all moving past those I love this brand and I can't live without it kind of influencer content, and we want something a bit more honest. So really encourage honesty from your gifting and customers and influencers.
Amazing. And then finally,
obviously, we've heard a lot about AI today, and I'm sure you're going to hear about it again, but something I wanted to shout out was a tool called Flare. So one thing that I find a lot of brands put a lot of money into is their kind of product photography. They tend to think you need to spend 5K, whatever, to have a product photo shoot. And actually, the return on that isn't always worthwhile. So a tool like Flare, you can put your product PNGs into the system and create really beautiful product photography that frees up some of your budget to work on the video production and some of those other things that I think have more of a return for you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Cassie. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.